You know, for centuries, we've been trying to map the human mind, especially when it comes to mental illness. But what if our current map is, well, just fundamentally flawed? What if it's been leading us down the wrong paths all this time? Today, we're looking at a groundbreaking new effort to redraw that map, not from old ideas, but from the ground up, using the real, direct experiences of thousands of people. All right, let's get into it.
So I want to start with a question that honestly gets right to the heart of the problem. Think about this. Is it actually possible for two people, both with an official diagnosis of major depressive disorder, to have absolutely no symptoms in common? Not a single one. It sounds impossible, right?
Well, the crazy thing is, according to the official diagnostic rulebook we use today, the answer is yes. And that's not just some weird trivia fact. It is a huge problem. It's an issue that can really slow down research, make treatment way more complicated, and leave people feeling completely misunderstood. And that is exactly why we need a better system.
To really get why this is such a big deal, we first need to take a look at our current map, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, which you probably know better as the DSM.
For decades now, the DSM has been the go-to guide for clinicians and researchers. I mean, it's given us a common language, and it's absolutely enabled a ton of progress. You can think of it as the first real, comprehensive atlas of mental disorders. It was essential for its time. But, like any old map, it's starting to show its age. It has its limits.
So here's some of the key problems we're running into now. First, there's that checklist problem we just talked about, which creates this massive variety inside a single diagnosis. Then you've got these fuzzy borders. The lines between different disorders are often so blurry with so many shared symptoms, it's hard to tell them apart. This can lead to low reliability where, one person could see 3 different doctors and get 3 different diagnoses. And the real kicker? A lot of people now believe these flaws are actually holding back the next wave of scientific discovery and better treatments.
So, this is where a team of researchers decided to become modern-day cartographers. Instead of just trying to patch up the old map, they set out to create a brand new one, completely from scratch, based entirely on data from people's real, lived experiences.
The method they used is what makes this so incredible. First, they took the old map, the DSM, and just broke it down into its smallest possible pieces, 711 different symptoms. Then they surveyed a massive group of people, asking them about their personal experiences with these symptoms. But here's the crucial part. They used some really powerful statistical analysis to see which symptoms naturally cluster together in the real world, without any of the old preconceived categories. And from those clusters, they could start to draw the new borders of our mental landscape.
And when I say a massive group, I am not kidding. This new map isn't based on some small sample. It is built on the detailed, self-reported experiences of nearly 15,000 individuals. That sheer volume of data gives this new map incredible statistical power and depth. So what did this new data-driven atlas actually reveal? Well, the findings are beginning to build a completely new picture of the mind, and it's structured in a really interesting way.
Okay, so at the very, very top, the highest level of organization, the map shows these huge land masses. The researchers call them superspectra. You can really just think of them as the fundamental continents of our psychological experiences.
Now, if you zoom in a little bit from those continents, they're divided into 8 core spectra. And these are kind of like the major countries on our new map. They represent these broad, distinct domains of symptoms that reliably group together.
And if we zoom in even further, really get down to the local level, within each of these countries, we find 27 specific subfactors. These are the cities, the towns, the detailed regions. These are the fine-grained clusters of symptoms that give us a much more precise view of what's going on. So here's a quick peek at some of those countries. We see some territories that might seem familiar, like internalizing and externalizing, but here they're defined with way more clarity. But I want you to notice that last one, cognitive difficulties. This is like a whole newly charted territory that emerged directly from the data, grouping together symptoms like forgetfulness and cognitive impairment into its own distinct country. This is something our old maps almost completely missed.
Okay, this is all fascinating stuff, but this is not just an academic exercise. Having a more accurate map has profound real-world implications for how we understand, research, and ultimately treat mental illness. So let's circle back to our original question about major depression. The old map treats it as one single thing, right? One diagnosis. But this new map reveals that its symptoms are actually scattered across several different countries and regions on the map. This shows us that what we call depression isn't one thing at all, but a combination of experiences from totally different psychological domains. So, two people might pull symptoms from these distinct regions, end up with the same old label, but have vastly different underlying problems.
And as the researchers themselves point out, this whole scattering effect was most dramatic for the disorders we thought we knew best, the ones with the longest histories, like major depression and schizophrenia. It turns out the oldest parts of our map might just be the most inaccurate.
And what's more, this new approach dramatically expands the territory that we can even map out empirically. You know, previous data-driven models, like the really well-regarded HiTOP framework, they covered about 71 DSM disorders. This new map, because it starts from the symptom level, successfully organizes symptoms from 167 disorders. That's more than doubling the coverage and bringing huge new areas of human experience into focus.
So, what does all this mean for the future? Where do we go from here? Well, this new atlas isn't the final destination, but it is a profoundly better tool for navigating the next frontier of mental health.
For researchers, instead of studying a messy, broad category like depression, they can now target specific, tight symptom clusters like distress or social withdrawal. For clinicians, this could finally pave the way for treatments that are personalized to an individual's unique symptom profile, not some broad, one-size-fits-all label. And for all of us, it represents this huge shift away from rigid boxes and toward a more accurate, a more nuanced, and frankly, a more human understanding of the mind.
Redrawing the very map we use to define these experiences, that is a profound act. And it forces us to ask a really big question. If the map of our minds is truly redrawn from the ground up, what does that change about who we think we are?